All right. Well, could you start off by introducing yourself?
Sure. So my name is Rachel Ryan. I'm a speech therapist. I work in Durham schools, and this is my third year here. I work at Sandy Ridge Elementary, working with preschool to fifth grade, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
So far, okay. Could you tell me what are some of the educational qualifications to get to this?
Sure. So you have to get your undergrad, and you can do it in whatever you would like. You don't have to have an undergraduate degree in speech. And then you apply for a graduate program, and they're 2-year programs. So there's several in the state of North Carolina. There's like Western, and UNC has one, Greensboro, Western Carolina, and ECU. So there's a couple here. And Central also has one, which you probably know. And so if you get into the program, then you do that for 2 years. Then after that, you have to do a CF, which is like a clinical fellowship. And so you kind of get supervised for a year, but you're working and making a paycheck. And then after that, you're licensed to be on your own. So it's about, you have to do, between undergraduate and graduate, 6 years of schooling. So.
Okay. What's like a day-to-day as a speech and language pathologist?
Okay. Every day is different. I have a schedule that I go by, but it usually changes, so I usually have to mark out things and rearrange things. So the most of my day is seeing kids for therapy. I have different groups, and those can be just one kid at a time. Those can be up to 5 kids at a time, depending on the situation and the type of group. I see kids for therapy for language, stuttering, and for articulation. So there's different categories that I see students for, as well as social skills. And then I also do evaluations of kids. So I might spend an hour or 2 with a kid, testing him. We have standardized assessments that we use, so that could be and they're individualized to whatever the needs are for that student. Paperwork is a big thing. I have to do a lot of paperwork. And emails, talking with teachers. I attend meetings, like IEP meetings, with a parent, and so we go over like how they're doing and that kind of thing. So it's a very full day. We also have like staff meetings and that kind of thing too after school. So you're kind of involved with teachers, parents, and the students themselves.
Okay. What is the hardest part about your job?
Mm-hmm. The hardest part would be the paperwork, I would say. Every year it gets more and more. They kind of add things that you have to document. So I write an IEP, which is how they're doing currently, what needs they have currently, and then I address them in the goal. So I say, Johnny needs to work on his R sounds, and so we kind of make a measurement of that and how often he needs to work on that. He may, need 1 time a week or 2 times a week. We document that kind of stuff and why. I write reports, so I have to say, I test a kid, I say, he has needs in this, these were his scores on testing, this is what I recommend for services. I have to bill Medicaid, which means that I'm putting their therapy note into the system, and as well as that would go to Medicaid for reimbursement sake for the school. And then it's also for just online data collecting so that we have it tracked, without a paper copy that could be lost or destroyed. So I would say there's several hours in a day, and then just overall that are taken up by paperwork, which is the unfortunate part because you want to be with the kids, but you have to do the necessary paperwork to get them there and get them the services. So that's the hardest part.
What's a memorable experience that you can remember?
Ooh, okay. Let me think. So 2 years ago, I worked in a self-contained autism class, which was really rewarding. That's where I do find more of my passion would be in more severe kids, specifically autism. So this kid had apraxia, undiagnosed, and he also had autism. And so he was not able to really say any words at the time. And then we worked with him and kind of got him to imitate. He liked to imitate your, watching your mouth and saying words, but he couldn't really do it by himself. And so we got him from pretty much just making, vocalizations and kind of like vowel sounds to him making words. And so I kind of saw his more or less first word, and that was when he was in probably kindergarten or first grade. So, those kind of those are rare situations, but I think you definitely see that with speech, where you see some major milestones as far as language development, and then, just getting a parent, when you hear a parent hears that kind of stuff, they get really excited. So
Yeah, I agree.
so that's probably one of my favorite memories so far.
Okay. I guess this is. What's the salary range for a speech language pathologist?
So it varies, as I'm sure you can imagine. I would say the schools tend to be on the lower end of pay, even though most therapists work in a school, just because our state particularly pays teachers less overall, and so they pay, employees of the school less. So I would say it ranges from 45 would be probably the starting. However, that's for 10 months. So, a 12-month job you would make more. In the schools, you typically work 12 months if you're at an actual school. And so it ranges from that, and I think it could probably go up to 80,000. Medical professions would make more. Potentially private practice could make more. So there is a big range too, plus experience. Obviously, the more experience you have, the more increase in pay you have. But starting, I would say, is probably a full-time would be like 45,000.
Okay. Do you know of any opportunities for advancement throughout the career?
So that's kind of the downside of this career, is that at least in the school system, there's not much advancement. And so the only things that you might advance to would be taking a leadership position as far as being a speech therapist in the schools. Like, you could become the lead or the assistant lead, which we have both of those in Durham. And so they do get paid more, and they kind of make decisions and kind of make sure everything is running smoothly as far as our department goes. In the medical profession, I would imagine in the hospitals that you could kind of get more of a higher standing and get and that kind of thing. And you can also teach classes, get your doctorate. It won't do you any good as far as most of your day-to-day jobs. It won't do you any good as far as you might get paid more, but probably not an increase enough to be able to afford getting your doctorate. So I would say for me personally, there's not a ton of advancement, but I think in the field there is potential for advancement.
So when you said the lead, are you saying like overall in the county or at the school?
In the county, yeah. So I'm the only therapist at basically the only therapist at my school. There is one that sees the preschool, and I see the kindergarten through 5th. So usually there's only one, potentially 2 at every school. And then so we have about 50 therapists in the district. Mm-hmm. And there's a lead and an assistant lead overall. And so they kind of oversee just speech in general as far as our county goes and what's going on. And, they kind of make sure that we're following the law, and services are put into place and that kind of thing. And, we kind of follow their protocols for how to do things, the paperwork and stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I guess you already answered. I only have one more question. It says, where are jobs more abundant?
Okay. I would say it could go both ways. I would say there's definitely opportunities in rural counties for jobs, because they're always looking. There's always a need, and people tend to not want to go to a rural county it could be in any of the fields as far as school or hospital or private practice. So there's definitely need there. But at the same time, there's definitely need in these bigger areas like Raleigh-Durham, because there is more kids to serve, and so they're usually looking for people to work. And I would say there's really not a shortage of jobs. It's not easy to find a job, but there definitely are plenty of jobs available. If you look for a school job in any district, there's probably I would say probably 10 counties in the state right now that are looking for a speech therapist. So there's definitely availability and need, but getting the job is the hard part. Once you get plugged in, it's easier, but starting out is a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
letting me interview you.
You're welcome.